Hello, everyone. My name is George. Thanks a lot for coming this afternoon. Really excited about this topic. I mean, I've been doing it for 4 or 5 years now. And can everyone hear me okay? Any problems or? Yeah? Okay, terrific. All right. So just to get started, I'm going to be talking about mobile augmented reality applications. Runs that one on your phone, just like this one. And if you haven't noticed, I'm actually doing the presentation from this phone. It's a BlackBerry Q10 Dev Alpha prototype. But I'll just move on to the next screen. A little about myself. I run the LA PhoneGap user group. This is sponsored by Adobe. I built, I don't know, a gazillion applications. I have about 50 applications in the BlackBerry App Store, iPhone App Store, Android. I've built Windows Phone apps and done training on that as well. And let's see, other things to highlight. Yeah, I've worked for on projects mostly through Total Immersion. I'll show you a slide later, but for Kraft, LG, and Disney. So if you want to talk anything about augmented reality, or if you have questions about mobile application development, PhoneGap development, I'm just all ears and ready to talk about it. And let's see. So to get started, this is what I'm going to cover today. It's a lot of material. Hopefully, you guys have been going to some of the other sessions. Did anyone go to Tony Parisi's talk yesterday about the Webgl? Any familiar, or if people are familiar with Webgl, who have done any development? What about the Webrtc talks? There've been a couple of those today. All right, so it looks like I'm going to have to cover a lot of material today, and I'm going to try to do it as quickly as possible. Let's see. So the first thing I want to get into is that augmented reality mobile applications is predicted to grow. I mean, we've already seen the kinds of experiences where you hold up the phone and then you're able to see what's going on. And for the most part, we've been doing that as a native kind of experience. Those apps are usually written in Objective-C, Java, C, C++, and to the browser now, they're becoming more common or available, but that's specifically through the use of Chrome web browser, the mobile Safari, the Safari from version 5.1, and a couple others are making that possible. This is an example of probably an appropriate app at this point. It's being Halloween. You can get this on the iPhone. It's free. And another way that you can develop augmented reality apps is from Qualcomm Vuforia. It's a free SDK, for the most part for iOS and Android, but then you're going to be doing like native development. Just a quick question. How many of you have actually made an application like a PhoneGap style app, like a mobile app, and deployed it to a device? Yeah. Okay, so a small percentage of the room. So we'll cover that towards the end as well. And in the company I used to work with, Total Immersion, their license, they charge $20,000 to do campaigns just to get the access to their software, and then you have to build the experience. Most augmented reality applications take a long time to develop, primarily because there's a lot of digital assets that need to be created, and so we're going to talk about that. So 3D, what is 3D? This is a scene from the Big Buck Bunny. If you've seen it, pretty famous on the internet. Basically, there's let me just go to this little clip real quick. This is like through the Blender Foundation. And so basically, Blender is a tool for making 3D assets that you can use. So some basic things is when you have a 3D scene, that's like the entire room, the space that we're in, that's your scene. And this is a common concept in all 3D. And the next thing is you'll have your camera, and then that's where you're pointing at the scene. Because as you move the camera around the room, you're looking at the 3D scene, and then you can see it from different angles. So there'll usually be one scene. Uh-oh. Did we lose our... Uh-oh. Something happened. Let's try that again. We'll usually have one scene, one camera, and a renderer. The renderer is what actually does the work of creating the JavaScript connection to the native library, so you can actually paint the screen. So like there's this thing called a request animate frame, happens every time the frame is drawn. You have to put the 3D objects into the screen. Okay, let me see, HDMI not connected. Back to this one. All right. In order to see the scene, you have to have a light. And there are different kinds of lights, but basically, you can have a scene, but without the light, you're not going to see anything. So that's important. Let's see. Every 3D object is composed of vertices, and these vertices need to have something to wrap around them. So your textures are basically it's like PNGs or JPEG images that you can stretch around your 3D model. And these textures can also be video. They don't just have to be like a visual kind of object. And some of the things that you could put into a 3D model are cubes, cylinders, lines, what you see from geometry. Some of the tools that you can use for making 3D assets, like I said, was Blender. Maya is pretty expensive, so is AutoCAD, 3ds Max. Maya just came out with a Maya LT edition, which is like about $1,000, so it's a lot cheaper. SketchUp is a free tool that Google acquired. And then there's also another talk happening right now by Goo Technologies, and where they're also creating their digital assets for you. So where does the ability to do 3D in the browser come from? Well, 3D is run by the consortium of this Kronos group that has a lot of large corporations that are spearheading the technology. So OpenGL is the actual implementation that's written in like the native C, C++, and that's been ported over into WebGL. So OpenGL, WebGL. They tried to make the standard in WebGL as compatible as possible so that we can do that in JavaScript. Let's see. So with WebGL, what we have the ability to do 3D in the browser without plugins. So before, when I first started doing this, I was using Flash. And so with Flash, you had the plugin so you could render the exact same thing in all environments. WebGL uses the canvas and really got going in 2010, although there were some early development before then. Relating to WebGL, it's hardware accelerated. That's an important component. And WebGL assets are mostly in JSON, although it's possible to take the XML. But when the Blender or Maya 3ds, you can export the objects that are coming from that you create, and then you can share them with other programs. And the one that works that I've seen the best is using like a Collada style like XML, and from that you can read the actual vertices and the matrices that are related to one another, and then in a more complicated scene you can actually do animations like from frame to frame. So these things are rather hairy to work with, but for the most part, when you're doing WebGL, you're going to be using like a JSON data format. Oops, come back here. So in order for this to work, we need to have a WebGL-capable browser. So that's Google Chrome, Safari. The new Internet Explorer now supports WebGL, although from what I've seen, it's kind of not complete. Doesn't do everything. So I think it's still going to get better. And Firefox for Android as well, and Opera Mobile. But the two browsers that I want to highlight are the BlackBerry 10 browser, which is the one that I'm using right here, and then also the Tizen browser. I mean, I was doing some tests this, and I was hoping that the Tizen browser would work, because basically, let's get to the next.
What about mobile browsers?
Mobile. Well, yeah. So that's what I'm talking about. So BlackBerry 10, Tizen 2. Firefox for Android, Opera Mobile, they all support WebGL.
But what about like iOS support?
Yeah, so iOS Safari doesn't, like mobile Safari doesn't support WebGL. So because of that, you need to have a do it as native. So
Use something like Cocoon.
or Cocoon. So Cocoon supports WebGL, right? Well, yeah, definitely. Ludes is here as well. So that's a great technology. So, and then I'll just do this quick example here. So has anyone seen this app, the Scene app? Have you heard of it? I just came across this last week, and I thought it was pretty cool. Oops, let's go back up. There's an article here. So it just came out last week. So it's another mobile augmented reality application. What you do is you take your iOS device and then you take a couple pictures, 1, 2, 3, really close together, and then they're able to take the 3 pictures and composite them together so that when you're looking at it, it's like this. So this is using WebGL. So this particular kind of experience is not going to work on mobile Safari. Now, just pop this back over here. Oh, this is the wrong one. This one. All right. So on mobile Safari, this is what you'll see. To view this photo, get the app. Go to iTunes, get your app. And on Chrome, you'll see this. Unless if you're using the latest build of Chrome, which is Chrome 25, then you can go into the settings, enable WebGL, and then you'll be able to see, to see it moving around like that. So, I mean, think of it kind of like 3D Instagram, right? So, or let's see. Oh, let me close this. Funny thing about running WebGL, oftentimes like my fans will start spinning. So, all right. And then here's another example of WebGL from the 3GS website. Let me just move this out of the way. So what? That's kind of interesting. All right. So 3JS is a JavaScript, one of many renderers for WebGL. And this is one of the examples that they have of the light. See the light moving around, illuminating the scene. And the textures around the spheres are of different types. And basically, those are like two-dimensional images that are just wrapped around the sphere. And then they're like rotating the scene, to a certain frame. But I really like this one. So that's why I showed it. Let's see. Oh, let me turn this off again. And then, but in terms of where are we going, it's like there's a lot of performance. I mean, I'm really impressed by this conference, by the level of JavaScript maturity that's coming forward, and tools. And so actually right now in another session, Marcus is covering their Goo Engine. And so if you take a look at this, this is all WebGL. So all of the objects that we're talking about are rendered with the same technology. So if I can come around here. So being able to do this in a browser, whether mobile or desktop, is a prerequisite of doing augmented reality. Because, you need to be able to take advantage of the camera stream. So I don't think we can hear. This one even came with some music, so I'm going to try to. This one came with music, so I'm going to try to turn that on. Or, oh no, I will just skip the music for now. Well, no. Let's see. Where is it? My sound. Oops. Oh, this is nice. So I think that's HTML5 audio. So, all right. Yeah, so when you're making augmented reality applications, there's a lot of work. I mean, there's a lot of coding that needs to be done, a lot of setup, but then there's also a lot of assets that need to be created. So what they're doing is making it easier to create these 3D models. And if you're going to use, when I started out, I started using SketchUp, which is was a free tool, and then you could export the models. They even have a SketchUp warehouse, so you can get assets, and then it creates them in a XML-based format, and so you can like convert them into this what you need, which is like a form of JSON, to make this to work. So, uh-oh. Right. And then the other prerequisite is we have to have an ability to get the camera. So Webrtc, which is a real-time communication between browsers, allows us to do that. And there's 3 portions of Webrtc. The one that I'm most interested in is the get user media, which basically allows us to get the streaming from the camera. So whether it's an audio stream or a video stream, most of the time we're just interested in the video, but it also allows a way for communicating peer-to-peer and sending data through that connection. Good website to use, just in general, for finding out what you can do with the on a browser, is this caniuse.com. Show this to you real quick. And then it tells you the feature that you're interested in. So we're interested in the WebRTC feature. Okay, peer connection, that's what we're looking at. It tells you what browser it's supported on. Most of the time it's right, sometimes it's wrong, especially when you have mobile. It's very important to have the device, when you're doing your testing. The earlier you can actually put an app onto the device, the better, because you'll find things that are not working as intended. You would think that they work, but then there's just little modifications that make the difference. And sometimes, earlier today, I was gonna, like when I came here yesterday, first thing I did was went to Intel and I wanted to see one of their Tizen phones because I don't have a Tizen phone. But I said, oh, if I look at this, if I use the get user media, well, actually, it's not even in there, but I thought the Tizen phone would work, but then it wasn't until I had one in my hand and I tried it, I said, okay, this is not ready yet. But that being said, I think that we're getting there because, 2 years ago, we couldn't have been doing mobile augmented reality as an app unless we did native code. But now we can do it in JavaScript. So let's see. All right, so this is from the Webrtc website, and like I said, the portion that we're interested in most is this. Oh shoot, where's my mouse? Is the video engine portion of it. So even though sometimes it says that the video is supported, it may not be totally capable. So that's why you have to check it on the device. Okay, so what happens when you try to do this? So maybe I can do a quick demo. All right, here's one. So this is an application that this guy Horario Dragomir made, and basically when you oops, try to do this. Let me turn this off. Turn these other ones off. I need that one. Oh, this one? I think these are done. You have to turn this one off. You can only have one instance of the camera, so I'm thinking this is going to require me to restart that. Reload. Put your face here. All right, so it requests permission to use the camera. I go allow. Oh, that's me. I go start recording. Give me a timer. Hello. It's moving around and stop. Compiling, converting. All right, there we go. So now this has been converted into a GIF. And if I go open image in new tab, there it is. So that's using Get User Media. That's a real practical application of what it means. Okay, so now I can turn off the camera and it's still working. See? Yeah, you can play with it. And another example. This is by Sam Dutton. Basically, he's got a simple info. He works for Google. He's the Chrome advocate, developer advocate. And basically, yeah, a few years ago, your mom would be like, oh, wow, look, it's my son's on TV. You're like, oh, it's on the internet. Now it's like, we can be on the cell phone. So this is just a simple example of, and then, you're going to have access to all the slides, and we have a lot of notes. But because this is just like a real simple, what kind of code it takes to generate this. So you've got, this you can skip. The main, I guess we don't, no, let's look at that one. Yeah, so here's the video element, and then basically it's going to grab the video tag, the HTML5 video tag, and then it's going to pass in these constraints. The constraints are required for the Get User Media. I mean, they're optional, but it's good to have them in there. So this is saying no audio, have video, and then you can also pass in the size of the window that you want to use. And like I said, this particular site is just going to give you the very simple example, of how it works. But then that's good enough. And then this is the magic line here: navigator.getUserMedia, the constraints, and then the callback is like what happens when it gets to the video, and then error callback is what happens when it doesn't. So this is just going to print something out to the screen. So window.stream. And then the stream data that comes back is a blob, so like a binary large object. So that's just fed directly into the video source. Just like you have the image tag, and you have a source attribute, it's the same way. Are we back? Oh, that's a GIF. I'll leave the GIF alone, but I have to turn this off because I said it takes up a lot of processing power on your desktop when this happens. So in order to make mobile applications, we're following. It seems that JavaScript is following a pattern that's been put forward by PhoneGap. And when you're doing mobile apps for augmented reality, it's more kind of like you're going to be doing a native implementation. Because when we're doing augmented JavaScript, it's we expect it to just work on every browser, so we don't have to really worry about things. But there are some things to get access to these sensors that we have to do that have to be enabled by platform, because it's not likely that they're going to create an interface that we can all access the common way to get well, not yet. I mean, and actually the Webrtc protocol is still a specification. It's not finalized, so things can change. So it's going to take a while. So in order to access these features, you're probably going to have some divergent code per platform or per phone type. So that's just the way it is. And so far, like I said, the BlackBerry phone's been the one that's been most supportive of that. So, and you can actually see that this website, HTML5test.com, you can just take your mobile browser and go there, or your desktop browser, and it gives a score on how good the browser is in implementing the HTML5 specifications. And right now, the Maxton browser is #1. The latest version of Chrome is 463 points, and so is the Chrome Canary. And then you see for the mobile browsers, the BlackBerry is actually higher than the desktop browser. So, but then when we look at Tizen, Tizen's higher than the BlackBerry, but Tizen's not out yet. Probably come out later this year or early next year. But the devil's in the details. Going to can I use and say, oh, will this actually work from a specification standpoint, and then actually getting device in your hand and testing it, that's, the penultimate test. It's like you're not going to, and from doing like mobile app development, it's like really working with hardware, or at least giving direct access through like a not a virtual machine, but like a gateway that gives you control over a device, I think is the best way, especially when it comes to like things dealing with video. So these are 3 of the 4 BlackBerry 10 phones, and with their website, there's Webworks, which is their implementation, kind of like their implementation of PhoneGap, and then it allows you to do more than what you could do with PhoneGap. PhoneGap is a cross-platform, so they're going to try to do the same thing in every mobile device, whether it's iPhone, Android, BlackBerry, Windows Phone. They're going to try to do the same things. Now, when the manufacturer and the operating system get together and they say, oh, we want to give more access to these features through our JavaScript API, well, that's where this page comes in. So getting access to like the compass and let me see what else. Maybe not compass, but say like the BBM, for example. That's a platform-specific thing. Here's the picture of the Tizen phone. If you go out to the Intel booth, you can talk to one of the guys to show you the Tizen phones. They have them on display. All right, so when you're making a mobile application in JavaScript, usually we're going to have a configuration file, this config.xml. It follows this specification, and it's pretty standard. There's only a couple things that they require, but I'll show it to you here, that in order to get the app onto the device, you need to have an ID, a version number, version code. I think that's more optional, and then have the name of your application. And actually, this page comes from the PhoneGap website. If you look at this base example here, so for Tizen, they're following the same format. BlackBerry, Webworks, they're also trying to be compatible with the PhoneGap spec, and so that's like 3 platforms right there that you can support. And we come back up. Okay, so in order to make an application with PhoneGap, you should have at least one file being the index.html file. I mean, you can have it something else, but you just have to need to configure the like if we go again back here, you can tell it. There's another option where you can tell it that, oh, I'm going to use like a start.html instead of index.html. So after you've created your application, then you can create a zip file out of it, and then you can convert it. So this is where I'm going to start doing the coding. So as in all JavaScript applications, you can use a web browser and a text editor. I usually use Eclipse. So I'm going to bring this over. And let's see. Just want to duplicate my screen here. All right. So a simple application, let me just open up this one and close the rest. I'll close that. All right. Like I said, we'll have a config.xml file, and then, so I put my information in here, zucchini, my email address, that's optional. The name is important because this is going to be the name that's actually showing up on the device. And then you're going to have a description of it and whatever kind of options. Like this tells you which page is going to launch first. Here's your HTML file. And then this is a simple example. So here in the body, because this is what I put in the application just to know that, oh, it's working. But then, because this is a Webworks app, I need to have this for BlackBerry. And PhoneGap, you don't need that one. You'll probably just use like a Cordova.js file. And then once the application loads, then it's gonna, you have to wait for the device ready. Basically, the device ready tells the app that we can communicate with the sensors that are on it. So that'll be apparent in a second. And I've got 2 device readies in here actually. One for PhoneGap if I was going to put this on an Android application, and another one for a BlackBerry. Okay. So that's the basic example there. And now we're going to open up an actual project. So I'll show you what this one does. For the switching. Are we connected? This 4. Switch. Okay. Okay. This one doesn't look right. So here we go. So this is just like we saw in the web browser when it was requesting permission to use the camera. This one just tells you, okay, which camera do you want to use? So I want to use the rear camera this time. Now we can see the screen. And oops, actually, that's actually inverted. Let me do this. See. Desktop. One. Preview. There. That's it. All right, so there you see it. So that's 3 things going on. So we've got Webgl, that's where the spinning globe comes from. And then we've got get user media running in the web browser. So that's the Webrtc component. And then we have, the device platform being the BlackBerry, so that you can actually make a mobile application that can do this. So, okay, what is this? And then, you can see we've got 3D depth, rotation, stuff like that. Okay. All right, so drop that one. Maybe you can show you another. I'll show you another one now. Let me see. This one's pretty fun, but I don't know. Will it work? We'll see. So as I move my head, you can see it, right? For some reason, the video's not showing up on this one, so I need to do some debugging. And this is like another example that I didn't write this application. I just packaged it and put it on the device so that we could play with it. All right. Come back. Okay, so when you're making augmented reality apps, a lot of time usually goes into like brainstorming, like what kind of experience you want to make. And a lot of times it's good to have a really wide realm of ideas to work from, because that'll make the experience more fun. But then you have to wonder, like, oh, can we actually do this? So it'll take time to actually say, well, if it's something that's already been done, then that's easier to figure out. If it hasn't been done, then you have to do some testing. And then in general, it's like when you're doing a mobile app, it's important to just like get the first app on the device and make sure that your build environment is correct. There's no point in trying to do a large project when you don't have something done in the middleware. So you have to make sure that you can build on step by step to get that done. Oftentimes, that's different about augmented reality projects is that your digital assets will be different. So you have to test that something coming from Maya or something coming from Blender is actually going to be able to render into your device. And so there's going to be a lot of going back and forth between the designer and the developer, the 3D designer and the developer, on how that works. And so the first thing is to test it in the web browser. If it works in the web browser, then you make a mobile app out of it. You deploy it to the app, and then to see if it works there. And once you get like the basic model in there, then you can start building on to the rest of it. So let's see, testing, yeah. And even another caveat about making mobile apps is that from time to time you're going to have to go back and forth between working in the web browser and then working on the app, because sometimes they get out of sync. It's like you'll be doing something works really well, and then for some reason it just stops. And the debugging JavaScript is not a lot of fun. So I often use the web console, like console log, because you can tell I use Chrome, but I think Firefox works as well. The Canary build of Chrome is better in that you can actually set a specification so that you can debug the Webgl. You can actually see the objects that are being created. I don't have much experience with that because this particular computer model, the driver's not compatible, so I need to like switch this version. But oops, where's the come back. Come on, let's go. Wake up. There. So I'm talking about this one. This is the Chrome Canary. So this one has additional options inside it. Let's see. Will this one work? Oh, come on back. What's going on? Uh-oh. This is... Oh, there it is. So it says sci-fi. So even in Chrome Canary, you have to enable Webgl. So let's drop that out. Come back here. And all right, so this is the cool stuff, because this code right here is this will work in Firefox, it'll work in Chrome, the desktop Safari, and these are where the libraries are. So the first one is JS Aruco, which is basically a port of Open Computer Vision. So, and the second one is the AR Toolkit, which is also it's like the first two libraries, the OpenCV and AR Toolkit, are from C. So they've converted those through other languages finally into JavaScript. So using this is how the core detection of the video stream works. So you can use this one or that one, right? Okay. So this is JS Aruco or JSR Toolkit. There's an article. Actually, from these, I put hot links in this present. So this is actually the source code. They can go get it. And this is like the article. Oh, no. I guess that's where it came from. JSR. Okay, yeah. So this is the source code for it. And then this is the description of the original project in C. And then this is the source code. And here's the open. Oh, hey. Uh-oh, localhost. Yeah. Okay, so that's the OpenCV website. And then here's an interesting video on hand tracking. Oh no! Wait a minute. Google's got to have its 5 seconds. Wait a second. All right. All right. Let's come back. All right. So this is done in JavaScript using the JS Aruko. So you can see that it recognizes the shape of the hand. So I haven't tried this on the mobile yet, but in the desktop this will work. So, and the person, Juan Mulatto, I put a link to his blog. He's in Spain, but he does a lot of really interesting demonstrations there. Okay. All right. That was the wrong one. Did I do this one first? Shoot. Yeah. Hand tracking. Oh, shoot. There's another one hid. All right. All right. Now, like I said, the get user media also deals with audio. So we don't just have to deal with the video stream, but we can also deal with the audio stream. So that's what these two other ones are from. This one will actually let you do like detection of JavaScript in the browser, the audio in the browser. But the one from AT&T is, I think their former, like their Watson API. So you can actually record pieces of sound, send it to their server, and then they'll come back with a text transcription of it. So you can use that for doing commands for it. And the last portion is something that Tony Parisi talked about yesterday. This is something that he's been working on with some other people. It's still in development. They're hoping to release it sometime next year. But it's a component framework because when you're doing 3D work or like WebGL work, it's like you're doing you're repeating yourself a lot, right? So he's come up with these 3D components so that you don't have to do that. So this is just a link to the source code on GitHub. So you can see that. All right, and then here's some more, some follow-on stuff for more additional research that you can do. That's about augmented reality in general. This was for Webgl, another one for the Webrtc. So I need to do a time check. All right. So do you have any questions or things I can cover or?
Question about the layer
The
Netherlands.
But Layer, I haven't used that platform. Okay. Yeah, but I think that's more of a native. Does that have a JavaScript component to it? Native. Yeah. So that gets to this one idea. It's like, well, since on Android and because when you're doing a PhoneGap application or when you're doing an augmented reality application using HTML5, you're using the default browser. So an Android, it's like the Android browser is like IE6, you know? It's like Chrome is a lot better. And so Chrome is going to get user media probably. You know, it already has WebGL if you enable it, you know, but it's not an out-of-the-box experience that people have. So it makes doing augmented reality on Android and iOS, you have to do native, right? So the way you can kind of work around that is by doing a hybrid kind of application where you're doing some of it in JavaScript and then some of it in the native language, so in Java or Objective-C. And so there are some libraries around that. Actually, I think Wikitude has a kind of a hybrid SDK for that. Wikitude Android. Oh, no. We want to see JavaScript. So let me see. Oh, so they're saying easily create, publish mobile apps without any programming. So let's see. So using web technologies. So this is the one. So if you're going to try to do this on Android, I think this is probably going to be the easiest way to kind of get access to that. Sorry about the screen. Oh, geez. All right. Okay. Some other questions or comments?
So I just wanted to clarify, so the BlackBerry DevWorks will only work for BlackBerry, right? The BlackBerry DevWorks will only work for BlackBerry platform.
Right. So Webworks is like PhoneGap. So actually, when PhoneGap first started doing BlackBerry support, they had their engineers write the library to work on the BB6 operating system. BlackBerry looked at that and said, "Hey, that's a good idea," and then they decided, "Okay, we're gonna do that ourselves." So now the same team at BlackBerry that does their HTML5 implementation for BlackBerry 10, they push all that code into Cordova, which is used by PhoneGap. So it's.
So does it mean it's cross-platform or is it only for BlackBerry?
So if it's in Webworks, then it's only going to work for BlackBerry. But I think the APIs are going to be similar so that you can, because I think what's going to happen is Tizen or Firefox and Google, they're going to decide to make the browsers better, or maybe like Google Chrome will become the default browser, maybe in like Android 4.5, say, and then it'll have Get User Media Access and WebGL, and then we'll be able to do JavaScript applications or hybrid mobile apps the same way that we can do now in BlackBerry.
So is it fair to say at this point it's not yet ready?
Well, it doesn't work.
Augmented reality on the browser is not yet production ready. Is that right?
No, it's not. Right. I would say, unless you're going to use, say, like this company, they have a way of taking the JavaScript and then tying it into the native code. Because the nice thing about PhoneGap, in that style of HTML5 mobile apps, is it allows you to create your own native code bindings. So what they don't give you out of the box, there's a way of doing it yourself so that you can repeat and do this again and again in multiple projects, as opposed to doing it in Java and then you just have to redo it again in Java. So that way you can have web developers work on the applications. So it's a different kind of tool chain and workflow. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Cool. Mm-hmm. Question?
So with these tools, does it make more sense now to do a barcode scanner from
a barcode? If it's when you say a web application, you can't do really that, like a barcode scanner in a web app, because it would be running from the web browser by itself. If it was a mobile app, you can do that. Yeah, but I say on the BlackBerry, you could probably do that on their new line, but but other than that, see, we have to get access to the Get User Media, which is like these video streams. If you can do this, probably more like this one. If you can open up this page in your mobile browser, then you can do a barcode app. So that's the thing, we see. I talked to the guys at Lude about their Cocoon.js and it's great. They've got WebGL down, right? But the Get User Media is not fully working. So you'd have to implement like a native, like Objective-C or Java to finish it off. So I mean, that would be another way of actually getting the application done. And if you haven't seen their demos, you should definitely check it out. It's a great technology. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. Follow up. Mm-hmm.
So you said the JS overkill there is not.
No, I mean in the mobile browser, no, because most mobile browsers can't do this page, right? But on in the desktop browser, pretty much it is. In Internet Explorer, it's kind of like, well, you have to test it because it's supported, but not everything is supported. I mean,
So I can package it up into a PhoneGap application. Yes.
Right, because for the most part, when you're going to package it, you're probably going to deploy it for Android, and that's just not going to work. Yeah, and then for iPhone, Yeah, it's not going to work either. It's not going to work. Yeah, because they don't support WebGL in the browser or get user media. Yeah, because they just lock down those APIs. And maybe if you jailbroke the phone, but that's not like a business kind of option. Can't run a business that way. Just want to check to see if this works. Drop that. Drop this. Wait. Uh-oh. A lot of messages. Drop. Okay. Yeah, so I'm going to put my presentation, I'm going to blast it out on my Twitter. I'm going to put it up on my website. It'll be on SlideShare soon, and probably with the conference website too. So we'll see. I think I just want to test one last thing about, you can see that? Yeah. Oh. Slash gum, G-U-M, go. Is this working? 4. So this is the same page from this device. Right. So this one could do a barcode scanner. So this phone. Yeah.
Is it
But
safe to say that you're the only one in this room with a BlackBerry?
No.
no, there's other people have.
You got one?
You got
Two
one.
people in this room?
Yeah. So okay. Okay. Well, thanks a lot for coming, everyone. And hope it was helpful. Thanks.